Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm so pleased to be joined by my friend, Joanna Guldin, who is the spouse of a Navy veteran and the co-host and co-founder of the Pillar Deployment Retreat. Joanna, it's so great to see you today.
It's wonderful to see you, Sue. It's been a long time.
It has, and I really appreciate the opportunity to catch up. We have so much to go through, though, so I'm going to go ahead and get started so that Joanna and I have more time to visit after we're done.
Perfect.
So, for everybody out there who has not read your highlights, I hope you guys all go back on the website and read it because her story is fascinating. But let's just go off the assumption that maybe they haven't read it yet. So, you and your husband took a very deliberate approach to separation in terms of saving for life post military and positioning yourselves to have health insurance and an income through transition. And this is what we love to hear because, a lot of times people are not prepared for retirement, never mind transition. So can you talk a little more about that and what your top takeaways would be for people who are about to go through it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will put a disclaimer, like John and I were in a very unique position that I think not a lot of military couples have the privilege of being in. So I had a fully remote full-time job that already offered health care and benefits. It was a job that I could take with me. Um, and that I had been in for a couple years. So I had a lot of career stability with that particular job already. Kind of knew how I could maneuver in that job as we were transitioning out, because transition is always a little crazy, even if you think you really planned it out well.
Right.
And so that gave us a lot of confidence. We also did not have children at the time, so we were dinks, and that also was a privilege of being able to save a lot more money, being able to take some risks that, quite honestly, if we had had our children at that time, we wouldn't have taken. So I think we had some very, very particular um, situations that a lot of people just don't have at that point of transition. So we used my job as a bridge between our military and our civilian lives, because I did not change it. It gave us the freedom for John to go from the Navy into building the company, building the coffee shop. And we treated that as his full-time job. So during his Navy career, we had been saving money to bootstrap the business, because we did not want to take out loans. We didn't want to have outside investors because we wanted to do everything the way we wanted to do it, and just give us that flexibility, which actually turned out to be a really, really great decision when COVID hit, and we could make some decisions that probably, if we would have been beholden to investors, or had a lot of major debt, we wouldn't have been able to do. Um, so his job was, we treated just full time. He created the business, built it, and then my job supported that endeavor, and it paid our bills and all of that stuff.
No, and I think you're too humble because I think you did it all right because, research and data points tell us that the transition is much easier for the service member if the spouse is already bringing in an income because that does always help the bridge, right? It helps bridge the time from active duty to transition because it relieves a lot of the pressure from the service member of having to take the very first job. And certainly in your case, because you were building a business, I don't think that you could have feasibly done that with a clear conscience if you didn't have the stability of your job. So you're way too humble because that is, I mean, I don't want people to think I don't want people to gloss over that because that is a very deliberate decision that you guys made. And that had an understanding that, hey, one of us needs to be bringing in a stable income with benefits. Because that is really tough because a lot of people who retire out of the military don't think of that. But people who transition out or separate, that is a very real consideration. And healthcare can take up a chunk of money when you transition. So no, you should get all the credit for thinking that through. So now I want to talk a little bit more about your coffee shop because to me it was fascinating watching, we're friends. So it was fascinating watching the story about how you started, how you grew it, and then how you sold it. So how did you know when it was time to grow? And then how did you know when it was time to sell?
Um, so I will put another disclaimer on this. When we did the coffee shop, we broke our jobs out. So John acted, as the CEO, as the manager. I worked primarily in a social media and marketing job. Like those are my strengths. Communication is my strength. So John was steering the ship a lot when it came to business, strategy and those kinds of things. And we worked together, but um, he was really keeping an ear on the ground for different places that we could open. We ended up opening two shops, and we were actually ideating a third shop when COVID hit, and it kind of derailed our plans a little bit. Um, but we knew it was time to grow when we found the right place to have a second shop. We found the right building in the right place. It was in a college town, a small liberal arts college town. It felt right. The rent and everything just kind of all worked out. Um, where we felt comfortable that we could take this next leap and all of that. Um, we knew when it was time to sell when actually we started receiving offers, unsolicited offers on our business that were legitimate offers, not just, kind of fly by night or where you were a little like, is this a real offer? But legitimate offers from other organizations. And once that happened, we kind of allowed ourselves to explore what that would have meant. And we realized with the right buyer, it would be a really good step. And so we found out that we sold a shop. And then about a year or so later, we found out that we were pregnant with twins. We just had them 3 months ago. And now looking back, there's just no way that we would have been able to be involved, quality owners, to grow the business, treat our employees in the community in the way that we wanted to treat them, and be involved quality parents of twins. So I know other people can do it and do it very, very well. But for us, I just don't think it would have worked. So it it really happened at a very opportune time for us. And throughout the whole owning a business, we owned the coffee shop for 5 years. We were working on it for about 7. We really learned how to trust our gut. And so I think that's what it comes down to, like both for growing the business and for selling it, like, and actually for a lot of other things in between, we really learned to trust our gut, like what feels good, what makes sense, not to really rush into anything and just to really sit with it, talk about it, and see where those things went. And it all worked out.
And it sounds like you also didn't give yourself too much of the luxury of looking back at the what ifs. Like you just, to me, listening from the outside in, it seems like you were always moving forward.
I think so. I mean, it's hard not to look back sometimes. And we do. And there are things about owning the coffee shop that we absolutely loved. We loved being part of the community. We loved being able to do events and meet people that we normally wouldn't have met, be involved in different ways that, now don't make as much sense because we don't own a physical business in the community. Um, but in other ways, things move on and we are loving our life with our twins and are trying to free up as much time as possible to spend with them because we only get this time once. And while that wasn't something that we knew was going to happen, it's a beautiful outgrowth of all the decisions we made that brought us to here.
No, that's awesome. And so talk to us a little bit more about your new venture, Pillar. Like, tell us a little bit about it and like what brought you there and where you're going with it.
Sure. So, Pillar is a virtual retreat for military spouses and significant others who are either experiencing or anticipating a deployment or a military separation, so like a TAD or a TDY. So literally every military spouse or significant other is welcome to join us. It is a completely free retreat. There's no strings attached. That is in thanks to our presenting sponsor, USAA Life Insurance. And basically what we do with it, this is our 5th year. So it is, we're at a very exciting place where we have a lot of name recognition, and we have a lot of excitement that builds around Pillar every year. It happens in the fall. This year it's happening October 18th through the 20th. And it's 3 days of organized community in a Facebook group. So we have speakers who are subject matter experts and are connected with the military community, talking about all kinds of topics surrounding deployment and military separations. So we really try to hit on different parts of military life, and the experiences for different people at different places in their journey. So we have sessions for people who have young children, like how to talk about deployment with your kids. We have sessions on resources, different deployment resources you can access. So like United Through Reading, Blue Star Families, and what they offer. We also have 3 dynamic keynote speakers. So we have a keynote every single day. This year it's Maria Reed from Moving with the Military, and Simone Garindo, who is the author of The Wives, which is a brand new memoir about her life as a military spouse. It's super exciting. Then we have a speaker from USAA who's going to talk about the military spouse experience and how important that is to the overall warfighting community. So it's just a lot of stuff. We've got giveaways. Like, I'm so excited about this. This is a venture that is very near and dear to my heart. And my friend Becky Hoy, who is the founder of Brave Crates, actually reached out to me with this idea. And she originally asked me to be the the MC. And it just sounded like such a great idea. I was like, please let me be part of this. Please let
Awesome.
me, help plan this. It is definitely the kind of thing that she and I both wish we had as younger spouses going into our first deployment. And so we really try every year to bring as high quality speakers, information, giveaways, all that good stuff as we possibly can. Oh, I forgot, this year we also have a concert by a military spouse country singer, and we are so excited to have her, Darian Lee. She's wonderful. And so, yeah, we love telling people about it. We love having people join us. If you want more information, you can go to deploymentretreat.com. You can follow us on Instagram and on Facebook as well, Pillar Deployment Retreat, because we are constantly putting out information, sharing about more speakers and more giveaways and information about the event.
No, that's awesome. I'm gonna have to check it out this year. And
Yeah, join us, Sue. And even though, it may feel like it's for people who are only starting out, like with a deployment, it's really not. We have a huge cross section of military spouses, some who are going through their first deployment or are just anticipating their first deployment, to folks who have gone through multiple, like tons and tons of experience with deployment. And we love seeing that intermeshing of different generations and different experiences, because the learning is really in the room, and people get a lot out of it every year. It's so fun to see folks interacting and getting to know each other.
no, that's awesome. And so one of the things that struck me when I was reading your highlights, because I did read your highlight. Um, I loved your example, and I think this speaks to like how you found your way to Pillar and everything. I loved your example of people who spoke your name when you weren't in the room, and the importance of finding partners who support your mission, or like Becky, who bring you something that quickly become your mission and your passion because you're like, that speaks to me. How did you connect with these people? Because, I think that is a challenge for military spouses and actually everyone, right? Because we talk about sponsors and mentors, and people don't necessarily know how to find them. So, how did you personally connect with these people?
It's a really great question. Because I'm a terrible networker in the traditional sense. I am an introvert, and not that I don't like people. I think that's a something that is often misunderstood. I just really gain strength from being by myself and being, quiet and thinking. And so traditional mixers and networking events are not necessarily my jam. But I love connecting with people. So I think every person that I've connected with is like a completely different story. But I really do love connecting people, and I love being able to be helpful. And so I kind of think about it as like a puzzle, introducing the right people to the right people, and watching like connections be made, watching community grow. That is a passion of mine as well. And I love seeing what comes from that and like how things work out. Um, so I mean, I think that people know authenticity, they know good work when they see it. Um, I love what I do, and I try my very best every time. The military spouse community is a community that is very near and dear to my heart. I spent most of my time in my mid 20s to mid 30s being, in that community as an active duty Navy, girlfriend and fiance, then spouse. And so I've found a lot of people online. That's really how I connected with folks. And I'm really hopeful that when people think of me or when my name comes up, they connect me with opportunities. It's because they know that I'm passionate and that I do work as best as I can. So I hope
No,
that's the
that
answer. That's a
oh,
good
that's a
answer for
great
that.
answer. And it definitely carries like that, and when I think of you, I just think of someone who's living their life authentically. And so I guess that's what I would ask you as a closing thought. Like, what could you offer to people out there? I think so often, because as military spouses, you're always moving around, you're always meeting new people. And, with every move, you get the opportunity to reinvent yourself. But it takes maturity and I think a bit of hindsight to have the courage to live authentically. So, what would you say to people who are still kind of trying to find themselves in this military life, in this space? What would you say to them about the importance of living authentically and not trying to be somebody else?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't for me, I think I'm too tired not to. Like I don't have the energy to create a different persona. No, I'm just kidding. I think that this might sound like counterintuitive, but I think being able to stay in touch with people via the internet um, makes it much easier to live authentically.
Mm.
And I know that you know, there's all this of like Instagram perfect lives and all of that, but I think um, I have friends and colleagues um and mentors that I met when I was a Navy girlfriend and had no idea like what that meant for my life. Was not in a place that had a lot of supports. Like I wasn't close to a base or anything. I fell in love with a guy I went to college with who um we did not date in college, and then we fell in love later when he went to boot camp. That is a different story for a different day. But like I never thought that I would fall in love with someone who was in the military, that I would have that experience. And so I was looking for people, and maybe that's the answer. Like I was looking for people who could support my actual life, like what I was going through. Like I needed answers, like how do you figure out a deployment? Because we got engaged and he went to Afghanistan for a year, almost a year to the day. Um, what does that mean for my life? Like, what does it mean that I was a teacher for 5 years in inner city Baltimore. I loved my job. I thought I was going to do that for 30 years. You know, I thought I was going to retire from that school. And what does it mean that if I want to be with him, I had to, travel across state lines. I had to figure out, am I going to continue being a teacher? At that time, state licensure wasn't what it is now. So it was a lot harder to carry my career with me. And what does it mean to start a different career? Like I had all of these questions that I couldn't mask, and I was really trying to figure out. And I didn't have a whole lot of in-person friends that were experiencing military life. So I had to like find my people
Oh,
online who could answer those questions as well. So I think that's a long way of saying like, I think if you are authentic, you can build relationships um, in a really meaningful long-term way. Um, because not everything online has to be superficial. And then when you do get to meet those people for the first time in person, like you, Sue, like I knew you for much, much longer than I think what we have spent collectively like a week together. And I've probably known you for like a decade. When you meet these people face to face, contrary to what your parents say about meeting people online, that they're all creeps, like they're amazing people and it feels like you've known them your whole life. If you are living authentically and online. I don't know.
I love that. No, I love that. And I mean, I love your insights and the way you have of concisely putting into words what the rest of us are trying to mull through and think. But you're exactly right. Like if you have questions and you present them authentically without an agenda, then you get honest answers back and then you develop your community. And you're exactly right. So I don't think I have anything to add to that because that is the perfect note to end this on. So I want to thank Joanna and oh, what were you going to say?
I was just gonna say, I will say, just mind OPSEC and PERSEC. Like make sure that you're taking care of yourself. But I think that there is really a lot of places where you can grow authentically online and be safe.
And be mindful. We should just
Yes.
put that disclaimer up everywhere. But I want
Yes.
to give Joanna back her time. And thank you guys so much for joining us. And thanks to USAA for making these conversations possible. And I will see you back here next week. Bye, guys.